the man who founded Outer Heaven.
Oh, what a guy.
Link's Gyat?
Should we get a? Should we pay him again?
Yeah, it's time to get a cameo. Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimists video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
And my name is David.
I'm bringing such a soothing energy for my poor boy.
I know. I feel like it's usually you're the one who's sick on this, but today it's me.
Yeah, we got a spiritual Dayquil episode. You haven't said if you've taken any Dayquil, but
I took some Mucinex, baby.
Okay. Yeah, no, the Splinter episode of Dayquil episodes are Mucinex episodes.
Some Mucinex AM this morning. 2 big old pills. What it does, I don't know, but it said cold and flu on it, so I said yes, please, and thank you.
Can do.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you're very brave for still recording an episode. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to provide just such a nice, soothing environment for you to make a podcast in today.
Thank you. I appreciate your dulcet tones even more so this episode.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring it down here real low. Speaking to the microphone a little bit closer. I hope that's not ASMR for someone.
Is that a bad thing for it to be ASMR?
Not always, but there's, some people do it crazy style and like that's their thing,
You don't want to be jacking someone else's style is what you're saying.
I don't necessarily want to be providing that brand of relief for someone,
Ah.
Yes.
Is that really what it is for some folks?
I think some people get like tingles in their body when they listen to ASMR. Couldn't be me.
I mean, I always get a little tingly when I talk to you, so.
Yeah, I think that might be a different thing. That may
Don't
just
ask
be
me where.
Yeah, that's just the friendship erupting out of us, springing forth.
That's what they're calling it. Friendship eruption. Cool.
It's a hug by any other name, but
a hug is not an eruption though.
It is how you've been doing.
It's like
it, man.
an implosion because you squeeze in, right? Or like a crush.
Feel like I have been the benefactor of some explosive hugs from you before.
It's true. I'm a big hugger.
I was gonna say we've never really spoken about our physical stature on this podcast, but like you're a tall guy and you've got a powerful grasp. And so like I'm like a pretty standard sized height guy, but
you're like 5'10", something like that, right? 5'11"?
Yeah, something like that. I never know. But whenever you give me one of these big hugs, it feels explosive.
Okay. Yeah. I'm imparting the feeling of explosion internally. Gotcha.
There's a lot of love to give,
There's a lot of love to give, especially to my bud.
Yeah, true. We haven't recorded in what feels like 3,000 years.
It does feel like it's been a while. We've had a week off, so.
Yeah, we were graciously joined by Tori and Noah for a Kingdom Hearts episode last time, but we recorded those like back to back. And so we've had like 2 weeks of not recording, and man, the video games are here. Like,
I've been playing some games, yeah.
Yeah, they chilled out a little bit for the first like couple of weeks, but they're back. Video games are back in a big way. What have you been playing? What do you got?
Yeah, you talked about this last time. I've also been playing Ninja Gaiden Black 2. I jumped into it. I had played Ninja Gaiden 1 when it first came out at like friends' sleepovers. I had an Xbox, but I was not cut out for Ninja Gaiden back then when I was but a lad.
It was also rated mature, and I think your parents were a little bit more strict on that line.
My mom would walk by and see the heads flying and she'd be like, no. She didn't tempe motumbo that shit right out of the house. So and I had and I don't know why, but I just feel like Ninja Gaiden 2 just wasn't as big of a deal when it came out. Maybe I'm totally wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I know what you're saying. Like either the marketing was smaller or just the reception wasn't quite as explosive. But
like Ninja Gaiden was a moment.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been having a lot of fun playing Ninja Gaiden Black 2 because it's still largely the same great formula from Ninja Gaiden 1. It feels a little bit easier. I feel like they really toned down the difficulty quite a bit.
Interesting.
But it still can kick my ass every now and then.
I was still getting pretty beat up when I was playing this most recent one.
The ones that were fucking me up the most were the Robo Fiends, like the Dino, Enders. Like they look like Zone of the Enders type of dudes rolling around there. They fucked me up. But this game game is just certifiably cool. They really made the levels very bite-sized, which is fun. Mm-hmm. You just go through, you some fiend talks some mad shit at the beginning of the level, and then you go, you kill him, which is always a satisfying resolution to a gaming circle or gaming. What's the word?
Loop?
Gaming loop. Yeah. Wow. The sickness really just threw that one straight out of my brain. Thank you.
The Mucinex was trying to pull you over the cliff. Like, please, come on. Circle, is that close enough?
Mucinex, help me. That was my Mufasa. Anyways.
Long live the sick.
So yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with this one. I like all the different characters you can play as. They have three lady ninjas you play as in this game, which is a lot of fun. They all play very differently, and I really enjoy how you have just like big bruisey Rachel, the very quick ninja lady, and then the shield or the dragon shrine maiden, who's kind of like in between, that has the big long sword. I forget what those are called. It's like a spear and a sword mixed together. But yeah, the game's great. It still has all the awesome combos and moves you could want from a Ninja Gaiden. They have a lot of weapons in this one. All the weapons feel really good. Especially love the scythe that you get after you beat Wolf, which is also just a crazy boss and level where you're just going through like Italy, like Canal Italy, and then you fight this just medieval like baron of a wolf fiend, which is just ridiculous and cool. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It feels like they distilled Ninja Gaiden 1 down to its best components for Ninja Gaiden 2. Like it feels like a little shorter in what it's doing, but it's all killer, no filler. And I just want to say real quick, why is his dad's name Joe? Why is he Ryu and his dad is Joe Hayabusa? Makes no sense to me.
It's a confusing situation. I'm sure there's some Ninja Gaiden lore heads out there that can explain what the deal is there, but it is odd to run into Daddy Joe up there. You know?
Like Ryu Hayabusa, I am intimidated by that name. Joe Hayabusa, I'm like,
that's just a guy.
He lives down the street, you know?
You know, Mr. Hayabusa.
Mr. Hayabusa. He's a kind man. He's a kind man. So yeah, it's just it just cut me off guard, and I thought that was funny.
I think it's not a mistake that this one feels a lot like what 1 did, because I think if I remember correctly, either the Sigma version or the just baseline version of 2 felt a little bit different. If I'm remembering people's reviews, I played it at the time, but have no recollection of this shit at all. And so I think it's cool that they've at least aligned this version to feel familiar, since we've played the original 1. Yeah. Or I think it was, we might have played Sigma. I don't remember I don't remember the baseline version of the original, but it feels good still. It feels very nice, which is cool.
Yeah. No, it feels great. It's smooth. It's so different than action games nowadays. Yeah. And it made me very excited to have number 4 coming down the pipes, even though Platinum is a shell of what it used to be. Apparently, I was just reading up on that. I'm like, maybe, hopefully it's still good. So yeah, looking forward to that. At least trying it, I should say.
Totally, yeah.
Also been playing a lot of Cyberpunk 2077.
Wake up, kid.
Wake up, kid. It's time to blow up Arasaka, my homie. I just played one of the levels where you are Johnny Silverhand.
Right, yeah, they're like flashbacks.
Yeah, and while he is a big doucher, those levels are pretty fucking fun.
They are fun. They made the good decision to give him a very cool gun while you're playing with it.
A very cool gun and a very clear message from everybody who interacts with him that you are such an asshole.
Yeah.
No one minces words with him, and he's just totally okay with it. He's like, yeah, I'm an asshole. I'm Johnny Silverhand. But yeah, the gun is really cool. His like flame melee attack is really cool. And just the whole entire conceit of this woman, Alt Cunningham, just being this super badass netrunner who then become, I guess, spoilers for Cyberpunk 2077 a little bit.
Wake up, kid. Hi, it's Chase, after the fact. I'm editing and had to drop in the spoiler tag here because we're about to talk about what happens to Alt Cunningham in Cyberpunk 2077. It's, I don't know, this game's been out for a little while, but there's a pretty good chance you haven't played it. And I'd say it's pretty good. Like, that character stuff is fun. Maybe you'd enjoy finding out firsthand, or not. That's also okay. There's chapter markers in your podcatcher that you can skip ahead to if you don't want to hear about that. So yeah, I hope that your day's going good, considering everything. I don't know, hang out with your Chumbas, I guess. Anyway, okay, here's David and I talking about that spoiler. All right, goodbye.
badass netrunner who then becomes an AI who you then make deals with in like this liminal cyberspace is very fucking cool. Like when you go into like the net running area, when you go into that ice bath with the Voodoo Boys, cool name for a gang too, Voodoo Boys. That just kind of like jacking into the Matrix feel of it all was so well done. Like they really nail the feel of everything in this game visually. Like it was really well done. I was completely sold on it immediately, and I'm not a huge kind of like cyber world Tron person. It's never kind of been my jam, but this one was a good one. It was really well done.
Yeah, visually they really sell it. It like looks
absolutely
great in there.
Yeah, looks great, sounds cool. It's very different, and just the little visual flourishes of it being just like clearly a jacked up electrical signal is so good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's all fuzzy. It'll like pause for a second and get all jittery. It's so good. Yeah. So yeah, still having a lot of fun with Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Been playing Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones
still, and the Great Circle. This is a good kind of like chill game because a lot of it is just thinking about puzzles and whipping your way around little tiny sewers or the Vatican or wherever. And it's very story driven, so it's kind of like a fun game to have like told and experienced for you in a lot of ways. Unless you decide to just knock out every fascist in sight, which is also a very viable way of playing the game and also quite fun once you get used to the first-person melee combat. But yeah, I feel like this game is it's very well done, and B, I feel like it is giving a lot of support to the idea that first-person action-adventure games can still be very fun, because some of my most memorable experiences with video games have been with that genre, and they have kind of died in recent years, right? Because like thinking about Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, I'm thinking about Breakdown, I'm thinking about what was that one where you're like a detective and you fight and it's like really not PC because you just fight a lot of homeless people now. You know the one I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. It was like a launch title for the Xbox 360.
It was. It had two games.
Condemned Criminal Origins.
Yes. Those were fun games.
Yeah.
The opposite of woke, but they were fun games.
Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying kind of the return of this genre because, man, does it feel good to punch a fascist with just your bare hand in this game.
For sure. Yeah.
They really just make you feel like the whole entire power of the American like federal government and democracy are behind your fist whenever it happens. Yeah, it's very well done. Yeah, it's a good immersive sim. I think you haven't touched this one yet, have you?
Not yet. Yeah, I'm sure I will. I really like immersive sim games. So
yeah, like you're not a big Indiana enjoyer, are you?
I'm an Indiana enjoyer. I wouldn't say I'm an Indiana like lover or fanboy, you know?
Gotcha.
Like I've seen most of those or all of those movies at least once and enjoyed my time. I would say with most of them, but like it was not like a defining part of my childhood in some way.
Gotcha.
You know?
Okay. Cool. Yeah, good game. Play it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I will. Yeah.
And I also was playing Persona 3 Reloaded.
Okay, now we're talking. Now these are video games, David.
All that other drivel just to finally get you to Persona 3 Reloaded.
Yeah.
So I have a Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, and I decided, wow, this thing works very well with Moonlight. I wonder if I can get my Xbox streaming on this thing. And it turns out that works very well as also. I just downloaded the Xbox app, signed in, turned on Remote Play, and I've been streaming all three of these Xbox games I've talked about. I've played on the Retroid, and it works quite well. And I was in Santa Cruz over the weekend, and I did it from Santa Cruz to my Xbox, and it actually worked great.
Amazing.
When I did Persona, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, Persona 3 Reloaded. This game is weird. This game's kind of weird. I'm enjoying it so far. After playing Metaphor, the whole entire concept of the game makes a lot more sense to me now, and just like how it's laid out and how to interact with it. I don't have to parse through all of the, kind of sly asides or hints at what I'm supposed to do. Which takes away some of the anxiety of being in a high school setting for me, because I'm like, I know what to do. I'm just walking around. I have to find this person. I have to do that. I go to sleep and I wake up the next day and we do more stuff. So that was like my big problem with Persona 5 is it just was like, I don't know. It just kind of triggered something in me.
Yeah. I mean, high school is not a sick time for a lot of people, you know? Like,
yeah. But this one is not doing that for me, which is nice. I enjoy that. The story is just like right off the bat bonkers.
Yeah.
It's like, why are these people watching me sleep? Creeper alert. All right. Creepy. Yeah. And also when you do your persona the first time, your guy does that creepy fucking smile when he then, trigger warning, shoots himself in the head to activate his persona. That was like cool but disturbing at the same time. I'm like, what am I supposed to feel here? I don't quite know yet, but it's enjoyable, but like in a weird way.
I mean, having played a lot of the whole thing, I agree. That's like, that is Persona 3 is a little disturbing and also cool. And like, I think ultimately like incredibly moving, but at the beginning, it's like, what the fuck is going on here? This is a wild setup for a video game.
Yeah. Usually games don't start off so incredibly anime, but this one is just like 100% anime at the very beginning. It's just like crazy story. What the fuck is going on? I don't know. There's a creature with 1,000 arms and knives and a weird mask, and it's spooky. And there's a scary man with a big nose and like a dominatrix next to him, I'm guessing. And it's just I don't know what to make of any of it still, because I'm only like a couple hours in. Yeah. But I'm very intrigued and I want to see what's going on. I want to know. I want to know what is happening here. So we'll see if this one grasps me the same way that Metaphor did. But I'm at the very least excited to peel back some more of the layers here.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the same way that Metaphor also is good, this one is, to me, at its best when it's focused on its cast.
Yeah.
And I think like once you can lock into at least a few people that you're like, oh, I like this person, or I like this person's story, or like what's going on here, that those are the things that kept driving me through the story.
Gotcha.
And then, because like, the big plot, it's like happening during the beginning of the game for sure, but like it starts to hit like a fever pitch about like halfway through the game, essentially, when you're like, oh my God, things are like really, really happening now.
Yeah.
Whereas up until that point, you're still kind of just like exploring the mystery of it all with your friends. And I think that that's like a smart decision because it gives you a lot of time to kind of just like figure out like what's Junpei's deal, you know, or like who is essentially not Magneto, who is this like Professor Xavier type dude, Shuji, who's like, what's your deal? Why are you here?
Why are you studying my sleep waves, bro?
Yes, yeah. Or any of that stuff. Like it gives you an entry into like the broader story that this game is telling you, but like the actual specific plot beats are kind of a mystery for a while. Like they're giving you a little bit of it, but everybody's kind of like, why is this happening? What's going on?
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked that approach quite a bit. And again, just like there's so many people in this fucking game that I like. Like I love Mitsuru and Akihiko and shit like that. And all of them have like pretty amazing plot beats that happen to them throughout the course of the game. So
cool.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Oh yeah. That's all I've been playing, Chase. What have you been playing?
Amazing. Yeah. Rest your weary voice, my friend. I got three options for you today. Would you like space, the future? No, space, robots, or warriors?
Give me space.
Okay, great. The first game that I would like to talk to you about, David, is a game called Reality Break.
Whoa, okay.
This is a game that I was just blessed with. The Steam algorithm plopped it in front of my face, and I was like, yes, please.
It's a deck building roguelike or a factory game?
This is a twin stick shooter that has some roguelike stuff in it, but it's like not the heaviest handed roguelike I've ever played.
Sure.
So this is a game that came out pretty recently, I think as we're recording it, like 8 days ago. And it's this game made by Element Games, who, so far as I can tell, is made by a solo dev named Courtney Leeson. And I guess it's just like her passion project that she's been working on for a while. And it is like self-described as an ARPG, an action RPG. And like, I like some of the games that are in that genre, but I wouldn't say that I'm like a huge buff of that genre. So like stuff like Diablo and Torchlight and like Path of Exile and stuff like that are games that are in this genre. And like usually I'll play through a Diablo, you know, or like one of those games, I'll give it a try and I like it. Like I'm usually like, this is fun and I get it. But the people who are doing like super high level shit and like running through like the game with like a like hardcore mode character where like if you die, that's it, you know, you have to start fully over. Like that loop of the game, I have never accessed. Like, that's never been a thing that I really have engaged with in a way that reminds me of how like when Neon White came out, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this because I don't really like speedrunning games, you know, like that's not a thing that I do. But I think Reality Break does a really cool thing where they make take some of that loop of the game where you're playing this ARPG and like going back and doing shit over and over again, like that loop, very accessible and like a part of the game. Essentially what this is you are in this like spaceship initially, and you play as like some character who's like going through the motions and trying to make money out in space. And you encounter this like artifact that allows you to like change reality.
Oh, cool.
And that comes in a number of ways. Like initially the kind of the first thing that clues you into like what the game is doing is that you take this artifact to the space station and they start like scanning it, and then it explodes and kills everybody, including you.
Sweet.
And then the game like boots you back out to the main menu, and it's like, all right, now you're going to have to do a reality break, which is like where you use that artifact and like erase that run of the game and start over again. But this time it's like you've got this like meta progression thing that's happening behind you where, you know, you've got some reality points or something like that, where now on your tech tree, it says like you can know that explosion is going to happen and you can avoid it. Right.
Oh.
And so that's the first thing, right? There's a lot of mechanical things that are a lot of mechanical like skills that you can invest in later. But the first one is just like this narrative thing where you can get past this if you want to.
Gotcha.
So the next time you go there, sure enough, like, you know, she says like, hey, we need to be careful with like this part of the artifact. And it doesn't explode that time. So you get to go a little bit farther in the game.
Sure.
And that keeps happening. And you can also start to like upgrade your ship in different ways with this like artifact changing reality thing where, you know, if a ship part is meant for like a much larger ship, you can reality break it to be something that fits on yours, right? Or you can make something stronger, or, you know, upgrade your skills and shit like that. And so the loop ends up being like you go out to the like one area of the game, you fight people. I haven't even said it's like a twin stick shooter. So you're like, you know, pointing your stick in one way and shooting in that direction. You have like skills, and you know, it's like a slightly more visually stimulating version of Binding of Isaac, you know, or any of those kind of games. Again, not a genre that I'm like horribly obsessed with. I like a lot of those games, but none that I'm like, wow, these are really cool. But something about the way that they have meshed all these mechanics together, like it just works for me in a way that I was not expecting it to. I think part of it is that it feels so good to play. Like just the shooting on the spaceship feels great. And because you're constantly like getting new weapons and able to like switch things out, and also because there are pretty regular points in the game where it is expected that you will start completely over in the story, you get a lot of chances to try different shit out, which like really works for me. There's a lot of cool moments to just be like, well, this weapon is the one I got this time, or this like missile is the one that I've got during this run. And so that I'll like, you know, it just feels good. The loop feels great. The shooting feels good. And all that I'm very enamored with. The reality breaking stuff is like, it was a little confusing up front because they give you a lot of like in-universe explanations for what's happening. And part of me was like, okay, but like, what do I do with this? You know, like what is the thing that I need to do here?
Yeah. Less explanation, more direction, please.
Yeah, or just like, you can just tell me, it's okay. You know, like this is the reality break and here's exactly mechanically what this thing does, which is fine. You get it eventually, but just like up front, I was like a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of like lore that they were throwing at me. But even still, I think it ends up working really well. I will say, if you're going to check this game out, I would suggest like there's a lot of side mission stuff that you can initially go check out. And some of that's fun, some of that's cool, but like there's definitely a point in this game where you get to the kind of the end game, quote unquote. And I would hold off on doing a ton of side missions until then. Yeah. Because like initially I was treating this game like, oh, if I die here, they won't send me all the way back to the beginning, certainly, because I've come so far. And so like I was investing a lot in like the side missions and checking out other shit. And it was fun. But then when I truly did have to reset completely, I was like, oh shit, like I kind of didn't need to spend that much time getting slightly better gear. Yeah. Because I was just going to blow up at a certain point in the story. Again, it gets to a point where you have to opt into the roguelike stuff, because after a couple of like major story beats, there's a point where it essentially says like, okay, here's the end game for you now, which is the kind of like gear grinding stuff. And in a similar way to how the like ARPG stuff goes, where it's like, okay, now you need to play the story again. Yeah. It's similar at that point where it's like, okay, I'm getting kind of as far as I can right now, but I need like more reality break points. So I'm going to like break my save and then, you know, apply all these new points so I can do better on the next one. But it's similar to like, I've been still kind of playing Cookie Clicker in the background, just like passively.
I've seen how many hours you put into Cookie Clicker. You don't need to be shy around me.
It always be running. It's always there.
Gotta click them cooks.
And there are points in that game where it's like you kind of have to reset because you're not making that much progress, and spending another like day or two in this specific run is much less efficient than just like resetting and playing the initial part over again, because you've got so much better stuff now and your like skills are so much better that like those first couple missions you can just fly through because like, you know, you're just doing an overwhelming amount of damage to everybody in the early game that it's like not that hard to get through it. And they also mercifully do this thing where like if you have seen a piece of dialogue before, you can just like press a button and it's like it will skip to anything new, or if you have seen it all, it'll just skip right through it. So like most of the story stuff is pretty easy to breeze through as well.
It's nice.
It is nice, yeah. So I'm having a great time with this, and I think a lot of what I'm enjoying about it is just that it, like I said, in similar ways to Neon White, where like I get to engage with this kind of game in a way that only super high level players usually can. Now I can engage with like the kind of permadeath idea in an ARPG, or the hardcore mode, or the like, you know, I'm going to make a character for this weekend that I'm going to run through to try and see how far I can get, or something like that. Again, that's just not how I play those games. And so it's cool for someone to take those like lessons and what is exciting and fun about that part of the genre and make it like a core component of this game. Like even the casual players of this game have to engage with that part of it, which is cool and shows me a different side of like why people are interested in that and what I also can enjoy about something like that.
It's teaching you how to enjoy something different.
Yeah, totally. Or at least, you know, allowing me to enjoy it in this form. Cause like, I don't know that I'll ever have the hundreds of hours that it's going to take to get good at Path of Exile. But like, I like that I can kind of casually enjoy this game. I see why people would enjoy something like that.
You could always just hire someone to play your account for you.
Yeah. And then just like go on Twitch and pretend that I'm like actually very high level.
Yeah. That's a good way to make friends and have people think you're cool.
And sort of compensate for the dark pit in your soul that you've been trying to fill for so long with rockets and electric cars, but it just never really does it, you know?
This is getting oddly specific.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Man, the dude's such a turd.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's Reality Break. I think it's worth a look. It's cool. I like this game a lot.
Hell yeah, love it. Sounds fun. It looks cool. It kind of reminds me of just the way that the ship moves around. Gives me like a top-down chorus feel. Yeah, chorus is definitely in there. Just like, you know, the space stuff of it all. It's essentially got a dash button, which I find very fun. Love it. You can just sort of jump ahead and like, you know, not get as much damage done to you. So again, it strangely feels very much like an action RPG, like a Hades or something. Yeah, like kind of Hadesy, despite being a space game. Yeah. Which is cool. I like all that. Speaking of Hades likes, David. Oh. I've also been playing a game called Warriors Abyss. Wow. Okay. I haven't heard of this one either. So this is like a recent drop. I think there was like a state of play last week, and the Sony one, right? Yes, yeah. And the Dynasty Warriors people were like, "Hey, we got something." And their answer is this game called Warriors Abyss, which is a Dynasty Warriors roguelike. Cool. Okay. Yes. Never something that I would have expected that they would do. And they've already released it. They announced it and released it within the week. Day and date. They said it's out right now. Cool. Go and check it out. And hey, this is a really good game. Like how Dynasty Warriors is coming back, fans? They're eating this year, myself included. It was kind of fucked up because they did that, and then during that same state of play, they're like, "Hey, Onimusha 2 is getting put out on Switch, and here's a look at the new Onimusha that's coming out." And I'm like, "Y'all got me fucked up. This is crazy." Like, it's a big moment. They should have looked directly into the camera and said, "Chase, here you go. This one's for you." This one's for Chase Allhart in particular. Yeah, don't worry. We're working on Parasite Eve, Mega Man Legends, and other loving PS1 classics that you're a big fan of. Would you want remakes or sequels to those? I mean, I would love it if either of those games were playable on modern consoles, really at all. Sure. So that would be a great first start. I think you could make a pretty good Parasite Eve game now. Sure. Like, I think that those like turn-based, the form of turn-based combat that game has is interesting and still could be fun. I have a very hard time imagining a good new Mega Man Legends. So it's not there. It's not there.
I'm much more comfortable with like an indie team tackling that kind of game rather than like Capcom, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, very fair.
There's a game coming out like shortly. I think it's by the Unsighted devs that like looks a lot like Mega Man Legends in its influences. But anyway, hey, we're here to talk about Dynasty Warriors, Warriors Abyss.
Warriors Abyss. It's an ominous name.
It is, yeah. And it like the setup is ominous. You essentially get contacted by like some used to be King of Hell, who is like an anime character. And he's like, hey, I got kicked out of hell by a nasty beast man, and I would like us to fight down into the bottom of it and take hell back.
I want to be nasty beast man.
Nasty beast man. Nasty. Yeah. It sounds like D tier unlockable character in Soul Calibur.
Absolutely. You nailed it.
Nasty beast man. Yeah. It's just a reskin of Lizard Man, I think is what's happening here.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Just hairier.
And yeah, so I mean, that's the game. And like, if you have played a roguelike before, you will be right at home here. Essentially, it's like a top-down fighting game, or like, you know, action game where you pick a dynasty warrior and you fight through hell to get to the bottom. The combat feels very similar if you have played any other kind of Dynasty Warriors game other than Origins. Origins is like kind of a step in a different direction, but like the combos are all square, 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 triangle, or square, square, triangle. And that's sort of the end of the combo. Very similar to something like Hades, kind of at the end of every floor that you get to, they'll offer you some kind of reward that you can choose. And then you can choose what sort of door to go through to get to the next area.
Sure.
And it'll show you like, here's the reward of the next spot that you're going to go to. So you can kind of pick and choose like what build do I want to try and go with here, and how do I want to change my character up. Typically at the end of any one of these floors, you will get to choose kind of like allies to recruit to your team that if you get to the end of a combo and continue pressing triangle, then you will summon them, and there's like a cooldown on summoning them. And so I think it's like up to a max of like 6 active allies can be on your team. And so like there is a sort of like build going on where you're like, okay, I like this character and this one's going to like up my strength by this month. They'll kind of have like passive effects when you get them. And you can recruit a shitload of them, and really only 6 can be in your party at any time, but the rest of them still apply their passives to you. So like by the end of it, or by the end of a run, you have like, you know, 20, 30 Dynasty Warriors on your team.
Sure. Okay, cool.
Which is all very cool. Again, only 6 of them are actively fighting with you, but like it's fun to just have like a who's who of like so many different characters, you know, like they're pulling from every one of these games. It's not just kind of the mainline big characters. It's not just Guan Yu and Liu Bei. Like they've got you know, like the very deep cuts of like, this is just like a folklore character from Japanese history, you know, like it's not cool. Like, like Hattori Hanzo is one of them, like the legendary sword maker and shit like that. Yeah, it's fun. And I think there's a lot of stuff about this game. Like it's just fun. They made a good one, you know? I think it's such a smart decision to be like, let's actually just apply the Hades kind of architecture to the Dynasty Warriors architecture. Like if they put this out and called it Hades like Dynasty Hades or Hades Warriors or something like that, I wouldn't be surprised. Like it feels right at home there. And like the combat is pretty different, and like the structure of it's a little strange, but like you see the influence there for sure. And so, you know, if you enjoy a Hades-like game, like it is there. And I also, something that I'm really enjoying about this game is that like, this is clearly a budget game, you know, like it looks a little bad in places, you know, and like the assets are all, I think, in other Dynasty Warriors games. Like they've clearly had these laying around, and, you know, it seems like they have kind of pulled together something new from existing either assets or ideas or mechanics or stuff like that. But I just think that the way that they have applied them here really works. And in a way, it is the thing that people are always asking for, the better, like shorter games with worse graphics.
Sure.
Kind of idea. Like that is this game.
Hell yeah. I like that.
Me too. Cause like, I don't need this game to look very good. That's not the thing about it that I like. It's just like, it's got fun combat, and I like to like pull up up to the reward and be like, ooh, I could recruit this person. They're going to upgrade my strength by this much or whatever. That's fun. And so I don't need it to look perfect. And also like the asset recycling stuff, like great. It was already there. Like, let's make something different from those things. And they did. And so like, I have no problem with that. It's also like, cheaper than a full release. So it's not like you're paying 60 whole bones for it. Not that we usually dip into like, is a game quote unquote worth it financially, but I appreciate that it isn't $60. I think that would be a little bit harder of a sell for it to be a quote unquote budget game and also cost as much as a normal game would. But I'm having a really, really good time with this video game. It's quite fun.
Hell yeah.
There's like 3 areas and 3 bosses and a couple extra. Of course, the pre-fighting like the devil boss is of course like Lubu. It had to be.
Gotta be. The biggest, baddest boy.
Yeah, had to be Boo. And that's very fun. I've only beaten the game like once. And so it is like fun to have that level of challenge. Mm-hmm. And I do think that like the recruiting mechanics do end up being pretty fun because you can do a pretty significant amount of like build crafting while you're doing it. Of like all of them come with, like I said, these passive buffs, and they have like one of, I think it's like 15 different kinds of buffs that they can provide you. And the more of those similar kinds that you get, like, they have like fire type damage or ice type damage or something like that, or charm damage. And the more of those that you get in a row and like stack up, the more that they do. And so like, you can kind of start to be like, all right, well, I see in the next room that there's a fire type reward, or there is a charm type, and I have a shitload of charm type attacks already. So like, I should definitely go get that one because it's going to be a lot better for me. And so in the same way that like, it's fun in a deck building game or, in Hades as well, to look at the rewards and be like, what am I building towards? And like, what is the thing that's going to benefit me the most by choosing what direction to go here? Mm-hmm. It engages a different part of my brain that when I'm just like killing the bad guys, my brain is kind of off in a way that's fun, Yeah. I didn't even mention, but the way that you clear these levels is typically you just beat enough guys, and then it's like, beat 100 dudes, and then you do, and then they all die and you get all their little experience or whatever. Mm-hmm. I will say too, the like animation and sound of you collecting the experience from all the guys once they're dead feels so Vampire Survivors as well.
That, yeah.
It just kind of feels like they saw a bunch of games and they're like, can we synthesize enough of this together for it to feel kind of like a unique experience? Like, would this feel just too similar, or is there something else there?
Yeah.
And I think they correctly surmised that like there is something here, that it is very fun. Mm-hmm. And that like, of course, the Dynasty Warriors formula works well in this.
Yeah.
Because like just fighting a horde of dudes, like, I mean, you're so close to a roguelike already that it just works. So I think they've got something really cool here. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is a series that they're planning on like continuing at all.
Yeah.
Because it kind of just seems like, hey, we made this weird experimental game.
Little one-off.
Yeah, which I would be totally cool with. But I also like, I've been thinking more and more about, like, I think we've talked about this recently, that it's a shame that we don't get like the sequel to an okay game anymore. Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about something under the context of like PS2 games and shit, about like how there was a lot of games of that era where like the first one was good and you could see what the cool shit in it was. But like when the sequel came out, like that's the version of the game that hit the best, right?
Yeah.
Like sequels were kind of like an exciting moment usually because it's like, okay, they're going to do it. They're going to like really deliver on a lot of the promises of the first one. Essentially just because like I think there was a lot more tolerance for risk and just like games not being the biggest video game of all time at the time.
Yeah.
That like, they'd be like, yeah, fuck it. You got 2 years, make whatever you want. And then like, not whatever you want, but something that like maybe isn't exactly the same. And like, oh, hell, like weirdly Sly Cooper sold a lot. Okay, make another one. See if we can get that going. Mm-hmm. And this kind of feels like that I wonder if they have more time to iterate, that they'd come up with even cooler shit. Cause like, it's still a fairly bare bones roguelike, like I can't see myself playing this for hundreds of hours or anything. Not that that's the mark of a good game, but like, if I'm comparing it to the greats in the genre, like, being able to replay it a lot is something that I kind of look for.
Yeah.
Like Dead Cells or Hades or anything like that of these roguelikes that really stand out. But also like, maybe it's just a 20-hour game. Maybe that's just what this game is.
Yeah.
But, could they could they do more with the story? Could they do more with, the different variety of things going on? But I will also say there are hundreds of characters that not just you can recruit as allies, but you can play as well. So like there is so much variety in how you can fight in this game that like if you're interested in that, it can keep you around for a really long time.
Sure.
And like unlocking those characters are all just very fun. It feels like back when like arcade games had a just like huge list of characters that you could unlock. It's kind of that feeling of like, oh my God, yeah, I can't believe I got this character now. Or essentially how you unlock them is like during the run, you'll collect some kind of currency that once you're done, you go back out and like unlock more people. So, you've played a roguelike, you get it, So yeah, that is Warrior's Abyss. I think it's great. It's like such a surprise that this game is as good. Yeah, just out of nowhere. Again, this is like a kind of catnip for me.
This is exactly your thing.
Yes, it's exactly my thing. But like, I think a lot of people would enjoy this if you can just get over the fact that like it looks kind of shitty sometimes. Then that's fine. It looks like a okay PS3 game graphically.
Yeah.
If you want the beauty, you got to go to Dynasty Warriors Origins. But for just the fun, you can come here. It looks good.
You can come here.
Yeah. And speaking of good games, I had no transition there. I have also been playing, David.
Yeah.
A game called Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist.
Oh, I've heard of this. Is this like a turn-based RPG?
No, it is not.
Oh, okay. No. I haven't heard of this then.
So Ender Magnolia, a game that whenever I don't look at the title of it, I can't remember it.
Sure.
It sounds like so many other kinds of games like this that it refuses to stick in my brain. This is a sequel to a game called Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. Came out a couple of years ago. And I liked that game, Ender Lilies, but I didn't love it. I wasn't like so over the moon about it that I was like, I can't stop playing this game. They're just like, yeah, that's a pretty good game. To be clear, both of these are, let's see, besties call them search action games. Into the Aether call them gate punk.
Gate?
I think Metroidvania is typically the normal genre name, but I understand the desire to name it something better. But yes, it's like, it is very absolutely a Metroidvania of like, you start with very few powers and, it's a 2D kind of combat stuff going on. And, you unlock more of the map by gaining new powers and allowing yourself to get to different places. Again, the first one, Ender Lilies, I was like, yeah, I like all this, but it felt a little overwhelming at points. And I was just kind of like, I was wandering in a way that like, I really need Metroidvanias to hook me early in a game.
Yeah.
And like, it's always such a hard balance to hit because you want to open up the map enough that someone's like, I feel like I can kind of go anywhere. And then they'll run up against like a door or a ledge that's too high or water or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I can't go past here yet because I don't have the stuff to get me through it. But that initial zone, it's like the first hour or two of a Metroidvania, it's such a delicate balance that you got to hit because you also don't want it to be so simple that it's like, well, I never even encountered a place that I couldn't get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt that way about the first one. I was like, I don't know that I necessarily need to keep playing this because it doesn't, not feeling super compelled.
Yeah, didn't grab you.
No. However, in Ender Magnolia, I think that they've done a lot to sand off the edges of that first one. And to that point, it's made it really good and very enjoyable. Essentially, the pitch of the game is that you've like woken up sometime in the future and you're this like seemingly child who is able to soothe what they call homunculi in this world.
Okay.
Which are like essentially robots. They're like kind of robots with some kind of humanity in them. And there is this like smog that is kind of everywhere in this world. And every now and then it will like drive one of these homunculi mad. And then they like go crazy and like kill people or turn against their allies or something. And the character that you're playing as, she has the ability to kind of like remove the madness from them. And so they turn kind of back into like the normal person that they were before that. And so the loop of the game is like, you show up and find the first homunculi, which like they look like robots essentially, but with this kind of like blue shine to a lot of them.
Okay.
And she kind of soothes the first one. She's like, hey, please like release me and I'll be your ally. And that's like your first recruitment. It's also your first weapon. Like she kind of stands similar to JoJo. It's like a stand.
Cool.
Where they like kind of just like appear behind you and attack for you. So the first one's kind of like just a regular swordstress. But every boss that you beat, kind of like almost Mega Man-y, every time you beat them, you typically gain their power as well. And they also become one of your allies. And so they just, you know, if you use their attack, they like appear behind you briefly and then attack for you. In the first one, that for whatever reason, there was just like too much of a distance between the people you were like recruiting onto your team and the character herself. Whereas for whatever reason, it feels very natural to be able to like use their attacks and like their abilities and shit like that. It may just be a pacing thing that they're doling out these characters to you in such a way where it's like easy to understand. Like, well, this is I understand what to do here, or like this one is there's like a character that you get kind of early on that has like wings, and he will just kind of constantly shoot at enemies with these like kind of pellet guns. And I think the game it encourages you to change kind of your play style and what buttons you map all this shit to. Anyway, so I think just they have improved how this game feels entirely. And that all really works for me. It's also like, it's so hard to ignore, but I think the game is definitely implying its influence here. It feels so much like Nier in so many places with like these robots who have like gone mad. There is the music specifically feels very Nier.
I'm listening to or watching the trailer right now, and the ethereal female voice singing over just some like chords and like orchestral music in the background.
Yeah, it's exactly
super Nier.
Like, a lot of the soundtrack is like a sort of pensive and reflective piano played along with like what sounds like a child singing, you know, and like it's just great. Like that shit works. So I really, really like the soundtrack, and like I feel like we may need some kind of stinger here, but like to bring up this discourse, but it also feels a lot like Lies of P, David.
Oh, I see that. It's got that steampunky type of feel to it. Yeah. It's got robots. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of the robots
there's some P in here.
Yeah.
There's some Will.I.am in this.
I was trying to think of what the stinger could be, and it must just be, I'm a P, I'm a P, I'm a P, I'm a P.
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be the P.
Yeah. Yeah. Just in the way that like a lot of the cast of characters are people who have gone mad, who are robots, you know, like that stuff is fun for me. I think it really works. So I like the way the game feels. I think the farther you get into it, I also forgot to mention that like whenever you beat a boss, they'll give you like this kind of interstitial cutscene of some history of this character. Like essentially, usually it looks like some history of them prior to them losing their mind, and like either what they did before or what led them here, or like who they were connected to prior to this. It's worth mentioning your character also doesn't remember what the fuck happened before she like woke up in the beginning of the game.
Gotcha.
And so there is this fun aspect of trying to piece together like what is the nature of this world? Why are these people losing their minds? Like what was their purpose before this and stuff like that? So all of that really works. And then there's also these like kind of incredible scenes where at save points, which of course are like benches, shouts out Hollow Knight and Eco.
I see some Hollow Knight in here for sure.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely in there.
Yeah.
At a lot of these benches, if you have enough characters, eventually you get these little like dialogue scenes between them where if you hit triangle when you're at a bench, they'll just kind of like talk to each other. And none of them are like earth-shatteringly good writing or anything like that, but it's kind of sweet to see these characters who like were all very mournful the moment you soothed them and like took away their madness. They're like, oh my God, like I was sworn to protect these people and I've been attacking them. Like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to see them kind of like connect with each other is kind of incredible in a way that like, I really enjoy the kind of not slice of life, but like almost these like slice of character that they give you. Slice of apocalypse. Yeah. It is worth noting that the tone is awfully dour, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty intense. And like, I don't think that it ever raises to like a Last of Us sort of thing, but like the nature of the world is sort of a bummer.
Yeah. It's P-esque in that way.
Yes, it is sort of P adjacent. It's a lies like, but yeah. So like, I think that works for me.
It looks fun. It looks like kind of my up my alley as well.
Yeah, I would think it would be like, you know, it's always a tough comparison to make when you've got greats like Hollow Knight and stuff like that. But I love the way that this game feels and plays. Like it is just a supremely playable game to me.
Yeah,
because it is relying on like pretty tried and true aspects of the genre. Like, you know, if you've played a Metroidvania before, like a lot of this will feel familiar, but like just the stuff they're bringing is so amazing. And it, again, similar to Reality Break, like it just feels good to play.
Yep.
And so I think they've really like nailed that. It's also worth noting it is just beautiful in places. Like the level of detail and art that they put into this game is like pretty outrageous. A couple of the like boss battle zones specifically really stand out as like, this is so fucking cool. Like the stuff that they've done here that every now and then I kind of have to like, you know, unfocus my eyes on the fight that I'm having and like look at the whole screen and be like, God damn, like this looks so good. So I really appreciate the sheer amount of like effort that went into the world and the art that they put into it. It's great. It looks really good. Also, some of the character designs just fucking rock. There was like a guy recruited the other day who like, it looks like he's like a jackal standing on 2 feet who also smokes a cigarette. He's a robot as well. It's great.
It's too
and
cool.
Like somebody asked him like, what is that thing that you're inhaling? He's like, oh, it's like it helps me, like I think he said it soothes him or like it helps like deliver a certain amount of like recovery to his body or something. So it's like a functional cigarette.
It's a good stick.
Yeah, it's like an actual good cigarette. But just stuff like that is so fucking cool. I'm like, God damn, dude, you really popped off with the character design in here.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist. I'm really enjoying this. Like I didn't talk about it yet because I'm holding off on talking about it until probably next week. But I've checked out that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. And that is a game that like I really have to work at playing. And I think that's intentionally. Like it is a pretty dense and mechanical focused game. I want to hold off on talking about it because I want to talk about that and Avowed next to each other.
Ooh, okay.
But Ender Magnolia, there's just like the friction that is there. I'm so familiar with, you know, like, oh, this boss is hard. Like I know how to lock in and fight a Metroidvania boss, you know, like that's great. Like I just know the trappings of this genre so much that it's like, it's so playable for me.
Hell yeah.
But I'm really enjoying it. Again, it's like this is such a specific note, but like it has so many quality of life things too, of like it does the Resident Evil thing where if you've been to an area and you've gotten all the shit that is there, the map will turn blue.
Oh, thank God.
Yes. Like, and that's so nice for exploration where you've been like, okay, I've been through this whole area, but there's one spot that's not blue yet. So like I should go check that out to see if there's anything in there. And then once you're done, it's like, I'm good here. You know, like I do not need to come back. Which is just so satisfying in a game where like exploration discovery is part of the process, just to be able to say like I can release the mental load that I've been bearing to you know, go explore somewhere else. So yeah, I think this game is great. I'm really enjoying it.
Chase likes Magnolia.
I do like Magnolia. Speaking of homunculi, David, it's the Manga Minute.
Oh. Wow. Okay, here we are. Cool.
It's the minute where I have a minute to talk about manga.
What you been reading?
Full Metal Alchemist, David.
Ooh,
Full Metal Alchemist.
Is it good? No, the anime is amazing. I haven't read the manga though.
Yes, so far the manga is really great. I'm really enjoying this. I didn't watch Brotherhood, which I know is supposedly the better version and the version that is more adherent to the manga.
Yeah.
I just watched the regular one when that came out. And I also didn't finish it.
Wow.
The regular one.
Okay.
I got like deep into it, like towards the end of it. And it was becoming quite sad. And I was just like, I can't actually right now. I was just like busy in the rest of my life with other emotional shit that I'm like, I don't know if I can go through this right now. But I'm reading the manga and it's already quite different than what I remember the regular base version of the anime being.
Yeah.
It's probably similar to Brotherhood, but it's good. It's good shit. It's a good manga. Really enjoying it. It's definitely shonen, right? Like the Ulrichs are very shonen protagonists.
Yeah.
But like they just go to such lengths to give you a very rounded cast that like even if you're not so into the like I'm not short, don't call me short kind of jokes and shit, like there's a whole other cast of characters that you can rely on that like have very rounded characters and like you will know what their deal is and their stakes and what they care about and like that kind of shit. So
everyone's favorite Shao Tucker.
Yeah, great, very good. Really good stuff. Also, the art's really amazing. Like I found that action is a really hard thing to do in manga because like you want to make it look like frenetic and intense, but you also risk sacrificing like readability and understandability
clarity
and shit. Yeah, like what is actually happening on screen. And like, you know, on one end you have something like Chainsaw Man that is like going the full other direction. Like you almost shouldn't see what's happening here because it's like so outrageous.
Yeah.
But like Full Metal Alchemist does such a good job of going exactly in that opposite direction and being like, we're going to make it really clear what's happening with this encounter, you know, that it's just good. Something about the way that like they frame the action moments and like how you see the characters and what position they're in. It all feels very understandable, despite also feeling like it is intense and scary in moments where you're like, man, I hope this character doesn't die right now.
Yeah.
Which it's bizarre because like I don't feel like Full Metal Alchemist is typically like torture porn in the way that some like anime or manga can be, where it's like they're giving me a character to love so that they can rip them away from me in a few volumes here.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that. It feels like they're a little bit more choosy with like when and why someone dies, but it also comes, you know, with the benefit that like I feel like nobody is safe in this world, you know. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's a very good manga.
Cool.
There's a lot of
Love it.
I was not.
It's a long anime too.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, I think I got to volume 10 recently, and I looked up like how much farther do I have? Because like I'll usually read through one, and it's like 14, 15 volumes or something like this. Motherfucker has 27. I'm like, God damn. Okay. All right. Like I'm not even close. Which is to say nothing of like One Piece's like thousands of chapters that they've got, but like
insane. Although One Piece is getting crazy right now.
That's what I've heard. I will walk that road eventually. I don't
Big
know when
lore drops recently in One Piece. Big lore drops. You know your boy was there.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, David, this will bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week,
which is
it's the good sequel. I was saying before, I feel like we were young in an era where like there was such a thing as the good sequel. Like here's the normal first version of this game, and then like the good one comes after that. Yeah. I feel like that's true of like a lot of games of that era.
Absolutely.
Even, like God of War, I think kind of applied to that. Yeah. Like Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper,
Jak and Daxter.
Sort of Jak and Daxter. Jak 2 is just such a different game.
So different. It's true.
That like, how do you even compare that to the first one? But I think at the time it was viewed as like a better game.
Prince of Persia Warrior Within.
No, Warrior Within.
I'm not on that one.
I mean, even something as simple as like Grand Theft Auto, like
sure,
Vice City was immediately a very different and cool game compared to 3. And then of course, San Andreas being a like leaps and bounds more interesting, at least to me, or at least more mechanically satisfying than 3 or even Vice City.
Would you put Halo 1 and 2 in there? At least as far as online play goes, I think you'd have to say 2 is the superior game.
Yeah, definitely the online stuff is better in 2. I mean, yeah, it's hard to compare. I feel like those ones are...
That's a tougher one, I think.
Yeah.
1 is just still so good.
It is very good. And like especially with the sort of Master Chief collections that have updated sort of the visuals of it to be in line with the other games, that it's hard not for me to love each and every one of those games. Also 2 comes with like, it is sort of the Warrior Within of Halo. Because it's like significantly edgier than 1 was. 1 felt like a very like sci-fi core based game, and 2 is like, we got fucking Steve Vai on the soundtrack, man. Like,
hey, that's so edgy, it's actually cool. Please.
I think it's coming close to coming back around to not being bizarre and just being like, yeah, sure, that's cool, that's fun. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the good sequel. There were a lot of them, and I wish there were more of those now, rather than like, if we don't hit Fortnite levels on week 1, your game is through, kid. Yeah, like you will not be getting a sequel.
Yep, you'll be shut down completely. And your name will be erased from the internet.
God, just horrendous shit.
Yeah. Sorry, Concord.
Sorry, Marvel Rivals. That was a weird one that came out today. They laid off hella of the Marvel Rivals team.
I saw that.
And like, that game is doing great. What are we doing, you guys?
We're going through a tough patch right now in this country right now.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Anyway, David, do you have something fueling your sense of optimism?
I do. It's the sound that Indiana Jones's fists make when they smack fascists in the back of their head.
Yeah, real splinky back there.
It sounds like a fucking bullwhip. It is so loud when you punch somebody in the face when you are like sneaking around, because the game gives you plenty of options to like pick up busts, like marble busts, or like broomsticks, or billy sticks, or anything like that to give people brain damage, right? But the most fun is just using your fist, because oftentimes these dudes are wearing helmets, and like he just winds up, he goes, and then just it's like a lightning bolt strikes these guys in the back of the head. Their helmet like flies off, and then they're just out immediately. It's just there's just something so deeply satisfying about the force with which they are, with which you are annihilating these fascists, and the ability of the game devs to convey that to you through the visuals and the sound in particular. It just sounds so good.
It's not a hot take that good sound design really like can make or break the feeling of a game.
Yeah.
Because when it hits, it really do hit.
Yeah. It just puts a smile on my face whenever that sound effect plays, and I just knock somebody out, give them a concussion. Then I get my little archaeological dig photographs taken, and I'm out of there. Worth it. Fair trade.
Yeah. Just punch a man, take a picture, and go home.
He's a fascist. It's fine, right?
That's true, yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other like iconic sound effects from games like that. I feel like the NOS in any Need for Speed game comes close of like, it really adds to the feeling of going quick. You know?
I feel like Link's Hyat.
True. Oh my God. Speaking of Link's Hyat.
Speaking of Link's Gyat, is that what you said?
Speaking of Link's Gyat, one of the characters in Dynasty Warriors, I was playing as him, and I was like, that is absolutely who did the voiceover for Link in Ocarina of Time. And like, did you look it up? I did, and sure enough, it is. And I was like, that is remarkable, because like I never thought about the fact that like there was a guy doing those sounds. My brain is just like, I think I've still got the assumptions of kid brain, and it's like, these sounds were not produced by man. Yeah, these were pulled from the ether, you know. Like,
but I guess that makes you need to ask the question: if there was a human being who did Link's sounds from Ocarina of Time, who did Donkey Kong's sounds from Mario Kart?
It is sort of confusing.
Who did that?
Was that a human? Because those things don't sound human.
No, it sounds like someone's being tortured at the very least.
Yeah, either a person or some creature in some way.
It's just a noise that Reggie was making when he was being grown in the Nintendo lab.
But the program that made Snake, L'Enfant Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Solid Snake and Reggie Fils-Aimé were being born from the DNA of Big Boss.
Who is their big boss? Is it Shigeru?
No, it's David Hayter, or at least the war hero David Hayter.
The war hero David Hayter.
The man who founded Outer Heaven.
Oh, what a guy.
Link's Gyat.
Should we pay him again?
Yeah, it's time to get a cameo. Oh my God. Would you like to move on to our main thing, Dave?
Yeah, let's do it. I do not like the smell of fingernail paint.
I don't hate it, but I am a gasoline enjoyer. So,
do you enjoy the smell of gasoline? Is that what you're telling me?
Love it. It smells great. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like really literally designed to smell bad.
Too bad. They made it wrong. They made it exactly the opposite. It smells delicious.
Gasoline has no actual smell. It's like literally made, that smell is made in the lab and added to gasoline so that you know exactly when there is gasoline out and about. So you don't fuck yourself up.
Yeah, all I do is be like, some gas out here. That smells great.
So when you're cooking on a propane grill, you'd rather smell the propane and the gas as opposed to the actual like meat cooking. Is that a preferable smell to you?
Propane doesn't smell. Propane does not smell as good.
You need the real unleaded shit.
I need that 87 unleaded shit, man. Just that bad stuff.
The 87 grade, baby. That low tier gas. Let's go. It's in my veins.
The smell of gasoline feels like what it feels like to drink a Sprite that's really cold to me.
The smell of gasoline is the feel of Sprite?
Yeah. It's like it hurts a little. Like if you drink too much Sprite at once, it's like too cold and bubbly. And it's like almost spicy.
You're
and
like,
that is what that's what the smell of gasoline feels like.
Why is this Sprite so spicy?
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Why is this gas so spicy?
Yeah.
Wow. This is fascinating.
Welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them. We're here.
We're back.
We're back. We've landed on one that is definitely in the hall of more than just an okay game, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We got suggested to play Far Cry 2 from a listener called MangyLatestLarge. Thank you, MangyLatestLarge.
MangyLatestLarge?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, ML.
On the topic of this game, they had to say, it's nostalgic for me. Love the game and want to see how you guys like it. You've come to the right place if you would like to hear.
This is what we did. We played the game.
If specifically you would like to hear the two of us talk, that's what we'll do right now. Let me hit you with some hot stats about Far Cry 2, David.
Please.
Hot stats.
Cool. So Far Cry 2 came out October 21st. Sorry, off on my birthday by a day.
Wow.
2008. So I can say with some certainty, I was 17 going on 18. I was but a boy about to become a man in one day.
Dang.
This was made by Ubisoft Montreal, who you might know some of their works like Splinter Cell or Prince of Persia in the 2000s, which I think includes Warrior Within.
Sure does.
Also the Assassin's Creed games. And it's also worth noting that Clint Hawking was the director here, who there's a lot about him, but specifically he also directed Splinter Cell Chaos Theory, which I think is the good Splinter Cell.
The rest of them are... second one?
That's the third, I think.
That's the third one? Okay.
They're all good, but that one's like the one for me.
Sure.
Also the creative director on Watchdog Legions and the creative director on the upcoming Assassin's Creed codename Hex, which I don't really know.
Codename Hex?
Yeah, but I'm interested in that.
It's like witches?
Yeah, it's witches now. I don't know. Ooh. I don't know what's in there.
He was Agatha all along.
But he is also Mr. Ludo Narrative Dissonance himself.
Ah, that's where I remember this name.
Yes. Yeah. That's our boy Clint. I have to assume that a lot of our audience will know what that phrase means, but Ludo Narrative Dissonance, essentially he coined the term meaning that when a game's mechanics are out of sync with its narrative, damn. For those of you listening, David just absolutely housed a glass of Emergency, just tip to toe. Took the whole thing. That was crazy.
You impressed?
Yeah, like that was a very full glass. I was just not expecting to see you chug quite as much.
My body was saying, yes, this is what we need.
Yeah,
and it just went down easy.
Damn.
Yeah. No, I was wondering if you're going to say anything. I'm like, hey, this is pretty good. Take me back to my college days.
Damn. Yeah. So ludonarrative dissonance means when mechanics are out of sync with its narrative. So like, when Nathan Drake is shooting a bunch of people and then like tries to pass himself off as just like a normal guy,
normal Mr. Nice Guy, mass murder.
Yeah. I think for a little while, the discussion around that, at least in some circles, was kind of like if you have ludonarrative dissonance, that makes your game a little bit less than, and that if you align those two things, that will make your game better.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to that really anymore. Like, I think it's totally fine that Nathan Drake is a serial killer, and like,
yeah,
it's a video game, like
it's part of its charm.
I think that there are some games that just the way that they present themselves ask you to be like, I don't think you need to interrogate this quite that much. much, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when a game aligns those two things. It sometimes does make for a good game, but like, I don't think it's required to have a good game to be that way.
Yeah.
But regardless, that is this dude. I do have a review from an outlet that I didn't write down. I wrote all these hot stats a while ago because we were going to do this episode a while ago, but then push it off for a little while. But I didn't write down the outlet, so it doesn't matter. It's fine. I mangled their review. I took it through Google Translate a number of times, one language into another, and mangled it real good, which I will read for you now, David.
Let's hear it.
You can play Far Cry 2 and enjoy its best features without realizing that there are bugs to fix. Your AI and your travels are affected by dangerous world events, such as malaria. But the main 3D engine is impressive, immersing players in the thrilling journey of Far Cry 2 and allowing them to fight and defeat their favorite enemies. Passage. If you want to be a mercenary in Africa, you can make that decision now. And they gave that a 7.5 out of 10.
Wow, only a 7.5.
A little surprising. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that so first of all, had you played this game before? Had you played Far Cry before? Far Cry 2.
I mean, I had not played Far Cry 2 before.
Okay.
I don't think this one got a port to like the Xbox, but I don't think it came out quickly on console, if I remember correctly. But because I remember James, my good PC playing friend, being obsessed with this game. But check my memory on that one.
I think that it came out on 360, if I'm not mistaken.
Came out on 360.
Yeah, it came out on all of them all at the same time. So it was on Windows, but PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Because I was like, I'm pretty sure I played it on 360, if I'm remembering correctly. But just the reason I ask is that, like, I guess actually here's another follow-up question. Did you play Far Cry 1? Did you have any context for what this game was?
I did not play Far Cry 1. My first Far Cry was Far Cry 3. I played 3 and 4 quite a bit when they were out. I don't think I played 5. That was the one in America, right?
I think so. God, I wish that game was better.
Yeah, I didn't play 5. I didn't play Primal.
Yeah.
I don't think I've played any of the Far Cries since. Or 6, the one with Gustavo Fring.
Right.
Yeah.
It's bizarre because they really establish a lot of the loop of the games going forward in 2, but
this feels like the progenitor for a huge, very proliferative or very prolific genre of game.
Yeah. It really feels that way, and it's so bizarre that it comes in this package.
Yeah.
Because so for anybody who hasn't played this game, like, it is like a Far Cry game. If you've ever seen one of those, it is that of like, you go to some like fictional war-torn country that like it's set in Africa, and there are a lot of civil wars in Africa, you know, like this could be sort of like Sudan or Congo or something like that. But it's a fictional place, and you are sent there to dispatch with this arms dealer called the Jackal. And there's essentially two sides of the civil war that the Jackal is dealing arms to either one of them. And it's not super, I'm not remembering if it's super clear about like who you work for, but I think the implication is that you are like a part of some Western government that has decided that this is the way to stop the conflict, is to, you know, defeat the arms dealer and then dry up the arms so that the fighting will stop.
Exactly.
And so the loop is that you're essentially like fighting both sides of this war, attempting to get at the Jackal for a while.
Yeah, you're playing both sides. You always come out on top.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And the loop of it plays out very similar to other Far Cry games, where there's like outposts that you have to go find, and like people that you kind of decide whether or not you want to go in there. Guns blazing, Buns glazing.
Buns glazing. Wow, that's a very different game.
Yeah,
Leisure Suit Larry does Far Cry.
Leisure Suit Larry Buns glazing feels like a very real game that has come out.
It sure does. I'm sure that's been pitched somewhere.
Yeah. Or if you want to go in stealthy. And it's odd. I think I have this quote somewhere down here that like one of the directors. Yeah, so this is Patrick Redding, who I can't remember if he's director or something on the Far Cry series, but he's essentially talking about like why they chose to try and make a Far Cry game. And there's this quote he says, I think for us, Far Cry, like people always say, why even bother making a Far Cry game? Like, what does this have to do with Jack Carver running around with his mutants on an island? I mean, the simple fact of the matter is Far Cry is a Trojan horse brand, you know? We can't say, let's investigate something that's a lot more deep and meaningful and interesting and complicated, and let's do it within the framework of a brand that nobody has any expectation for. I mean, not to be totally blunt about it, but that's what it really boils down to. Went on to say, we could fly below the radar there for a while because everyone's like, yeah, Far Cry, all right. Yeah, it was a really cool PC game. He's referring Far Cry 1 that you guys went and oversaturated the branding on through your console effort, which is so funny that like already they're saying Far Cry is oversaturated. Like 2 hasn't even come out yet and they're already recognizing like, that's a little much, huh?
It's a lot of Far Cry.
And he says, and what we're able to do is say, okay, that's fine. You keep your expectations nice and low. We're going to go and do this thing that's way more complicated than people are expecting. And I think that's what's cool about it is there's sort of a bait and switch component to it. And I don't think we're ashamed to say that. And so like, there's a recognition from them that like, this is kind of a bro game and they're sneaking in all this other shit because like, we haven't mentioned it yet, but there is like so much political commentary in this game. And like, you are not supposed to feel like the indomitable warrior that you feel in a lot of other Far Cry games. Like,
no,
you feel vulnerable and your gun jams and degrades. And like the first major gunfight you get into, you always lose. Like the first thing that happens to you is you catch malaria.
And you're like, I'm actively dying. I need medicine. That's like the first hour of the game is like, find medicine for your malaria. Otherwise you will die.
Yes. Yeah. And so like it is bucking a lot of the trends that the series would go on to like totally embrace, like those trends that were going on in the series. And so it's odd to see like this be the first one, you know, like it would be as if the first Call of Duty had like something really politically wild to say, you know. I'm getting way ahead of myself. What did you think about this game, David?
I really enjoyed it. I thought, I mean, I've always, like I said, I played a lot of Far Cry 3 and 4. So I enjoy this loop, this style of game.
Yeah.
Like, especially Far Cry 3. I played a lot of that game. That was a really good game. And I think everyone remembers Voss, great villain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was really a lot of fun to see just kind of how they nailed such a tried and true game loop so long ago with this game, and that has spawned so many other, you know, games that have used this same formula, right? It's just like a little piece of gaming history. And beyond that, I think it's just a well-made game, right? There was one point where I was driving to a mission and, you know, this immersion gameplay, I drove by an outpost and they just like totally shut up my car. It started smoking. I had to get out and book it. And I was just like, there's too many of them. I can't fight them all. So I just got to run into the African jungle. And then I hear them stop coming after me. And then all of a sudden it's just like so quiet and still, but it's nighttime. So it's just the jungle is alive with sound and things like rustling in the bushes. I'm like, oh my God, that was terrifying. But now this is almost equally as terrifying, but also eerily beautiful at the same time. Yeah. So they just really nailed what I think is just the essence of Far Cry, which is being out in just the wilderness with, you know, all these people trying to demolish you, destroy you in some way, shape, or form. And you just have to find a way to survive. Yeah. The emergent gameplay thing is like so interesting because they really hammer on it in this game. Like it's a thing that's really in focus for a lot of it. And I think mechanically that's partially what makes it so cool is that like there's just so much of that. I feel like at any time someone plays this, they'll always walk away with like at least one of those stories of like, well, this was happening to me and then like a tiger showed up and I had to fight that. And then like one of the characters that like you can choose from a number of like characters in the beginning, and like the other ones who you don't choose also show up in this world and you can like encounter and shit. And so sometimes you'll just run into one of those people and then like they maybe help you or maybe they die and like that's it. The buddies. Right. Yeah. Or like maybe your car catches on fire and then like the hail lights on fire and you're like, this is shitty. I need to get away from this. Yeah. I need GTFO right now. Yeah. And so like just the game sets up so many scenarios that could happen. Yeah. But prescribes very few of those to you directly. Absolutely. And I think that's a really cool approach for games because it allows for moments like that are like, I am the only person who had exactly that experience, you know? Like, and maybe that's not exactly true, but like it gives you the sense that like, I don't know that a lot of people ever had exactly that because none of that was written or scripted. It's just sort of happened, you know, like your decisions led to one thing, which influenced the world, which then forced you to make a different decision that pushed you over this direction.
And like, at the time, I think there was a big discussion going on between like, should games be linear or should they be completely open? And
sure,
for a little while, I think linear was almost like a bad word in game design, of people being like, wow, like why would you do that? Why would you make a game that's point A to point B or something like that? And of course, that's not like a good way to judge a game. But I think at the time, it was just like there was this focus on mechanical advancement that forced people to think that linearity meant simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it's interesting to see almost a third route here, which is like, this is an open world game, but it's different than like a GTA or something like that. It's like they set up so many conditions for weird shit to happen and then just kind of let you loose.
Uh-huh.
I think immersive sims are like cousins kind of to this game, where like they just give you the tools and the problem to solve. And then they're like, all right, figure it out.
Figure it out. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, like, of course, this isn't nearly as complex as like Prey or something like that, but it's still cool to be able to see like there's a lot of different ways I could be doing this other than just, Buns, Glazing, or stealth.
Still funny. Man.
Yeah. Did you look into like what happens in the story here at all?
Not too much. No, I played probably good like 3 or 4 hours of this game. Pretty fun.
Sure. Yeah. It is interesting to go over. Spoilers for Far Cry 2. I think it still hits even if you know what's happening, but even still, essentially what goes on is like you two-time both of these like Civil War conflict people for long enough and see that like neither of these sides are just, that like there is bad being done on either side of this. And like eventually you meet up with the Jackal, and I think you get the chance to, I think, kill him and come to discover that like he's kind of attempting to stop the conflict. And like the means are also not great, but like by that point you as the player have also just been like relentlessly murdering people and stuff like that. So like I think it's a bit of a moment of like, well, am I better than this? I don't know if I am. And eventually concluding in you trying to stop the conflict alongside the Jackal of like, can we stop this civil war and like get the people to stop dying? Because like I think that's the intent that the Jackal has, is like, I don't necessarily give a shit like what's drawing this conflict here, but like the people who live here are dying and we need to stop that from happening.
Yeah.
And I think that the game doesn't give you an answer on like if you are justified in that, or also if you made that big of an impact. Like, I think that there is this like, I think message that's being sent in it of like, there are bigger players at hand here, that like, it's kind of a simplistic idea to think like one person can change the world, right? Like, or at least like one soldier in the way that like video games usually do.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like a very cool, like antithesis of a lot of what games typically tell you. And a lot of what other Far Cry games tell you, that like, if you're just a badass enough dude, you can, beat Voss and take down the bad guys.
Yep.
But it's like, not really, like that's not really a thing that you can do. And because there are like kind of much larger structures at play, that it's kind of silly to think that way in the first place.
Yeah.
And that in a way you're kind of just like mucking around in other people's business, that like it doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
There's
classic
also
Western government.
That's the thing. Yeah. Like it draws to mind so much of like what the CIA has done for 50 years and shit like that, of just being like, what if we just like topple this government? Like, how do we feel about that? Which, I think there's a lot in there, and, leads to a lot of kind of like anti-imperial thinking and just overall a little bit more of like why are we taking this approach, and if I think it also points towards a very simplified view of what makes conflict happen in the first place, not from the game's perspective, but like from the players involved in this conflict in the game, of like the hubris to think that you could just send a couple of people in to like kill the arms dealer and that will stop the conflict. Like, absolutely not. That's not going to stop it. Like, there's plenty of power hungry people on either side of the Civil War. Yeah, exactly. Like, somebody will step back in here, and like you kind of need to look at the incentives of like why people are continuing this fight, or why people are continuing to support this fight even. And I think that includes this sort of like Western powers in a way. It's a very interesting game, and I think one that like I said, bucks a lot of the trends of that time of like, it's not giving you the satisfying answer. It's not giving you the like blaze of glory and we did it and everything's okay now. It sort of asks you instead to like almost pick a side and participate in the fighting, but not necessarily the outcome in a way.
Sure. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's a very interesting game. It's also just like fun. They made it fun too, which is also good.
Yeah, no, it was a good game. It was well made, and I'm really glad that they were able to put in an interesting and engaging politically story. I wonder if since the Trojan horse game, how many people actually like took a second to think about this, or if it just went, in one ear out the other. Like I like the idea of that, but how effective is that? Or are they taking just the approach of if one person listens, then it was worth it sort of deal?
Yeah, I mean, like I bet not every person who beat it got that, because like I think you can just see like somebody who's playing this without really like any context on like American imperial sort of meddling that we've done over the years or anything like that, or just the idea of a civil war having supporters from outside that are like interested in keeping the conflict going, that you just might see the personal story of like, oh, the Jackal wasn't such a bad guy after all, which is not true, but like I think you can see that story and be like, he's not so bad. Like we joined forces and beat the bad guys, that you could read that story. The
Joker's such a cool character.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think there is plenty in this game that is characterizing you as well as not a morally superior person, but like you would need to interrogate the game a little bit to see that, because like it is a Trojan horse game. This is a military shooter. Even if you're not in the military, you're using guns and shooting bad guys and taking down like combatants and
throwing grenades. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like I think some people, and like honestly myself included at the time, was just like, it's just a fun shooting game and that's all I'm going to take from it. And like mercifully, maybe not mercifully, because maybe it's a good thing to make the political point too, but I think it's smart to also make the game fun and have all those emergent things, because there's so much else to chew on there that like you don't necessarily need to engage with it that much.
Yeah.
And like we see this constantly in games with like the chuds who are like, I miss when games weren't political, like Metal Gear Solid 4 and Fallout and like even Gears of War, like, did we play the same fucking game, dude?
No. They just didn't get it.
Like straight up like anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, gender bending video games and shit like that, like anti-masculinity in a lot of them too. And it's like, you didn't see it, so like, I bet there are plenty of people who just played the shooting game Far Cry 2. And it's got something for them too, but I think the actual like intent of the game is to get you to think a little bit more about this. It feels like that they're also playing with ludonarrative dissonance here, because like I think Yoko Taro said this at some point about like how if you play a game like the game is showing you how to play it, where you're just like a murderous person, that you're an unwell human being, like
sure, yeah.
If you take this without any grain of salt, it's like you're just wiping hundreds of people off the face of the earth, and like that informed what he was doing in Nier Automata, and also in this game, because I think it is asking you to think about a little bit of like, is this chill? Is this cool what we're doing here?
Yeah.
Like I've got no allegiance to either side of this fight. Me caring about who is just seems to have gone out the window almost immediately. I'm only doing this for my personal benefit, or at least the benefit of my country and shit like that. Like, it's bad stuff. Like you're doing bad shit. And I think in the case of something like Spec Ops: The Line or games like this, where like they kind of pull the wool over your eyes a little bit, and then they're like, don't you feel bad for playing the game? Like I think that Far Cry 2 does it a little bit broader, in the sense that like not only are you supposed to feel like, yes, maybe this character that I'm inhabiting is not great, but like I think you're supposed to see the system as the problem here, that like the state actors and stuff are the ones who are kind of telling you what to do, and building your own incentive structure for like what you're supposed to support and how you're supposed to think and shit like that. So it doesn't feel quite as bad as the would you kindly kind of stuff, where it's in BioShock or something, where it's like, I've been doing the wrong thing the whole time. No.
Yeah.
And they lay that kind of at the feet of the player. But this one feels a little bit more, there feels like there's a little bit more distance between you and the character for whatever reason. Yeah. It's good.
Good game.
It's a good game.
Thinky and shooty.
thinky and shooty. It can be done.
Best of both worlds.
You know, that's Metal Gear Solid, baby. That's what they're doing in there.
True.
That one is also a very Trojan horse game because it gets grouped up with like very militaristic games, but like, God, there is so much weird shit in that game, you know?
Oh, yeah. We need to do number 4, don't we?
We need to do 4 and Peace Walker as well.
Oh, Peace Walker. That's right. We're doing Peace Walker first.
Yeah. Very exciting. Anyway, this was a very good game. I feel like we could probably talk about this for another hour, but you know, the Mucinex calls.
The Mucinex calls for the sucker of sleep.
MangyLatestLarge, thank you for suggesting this game. It was,
thank you.
I know a lot of people call this game a masterpiece. I don't know if I've played enough of it to call it that all like forever, but like it is a pretty amazing game. It's doing a lot of shit. Yeah,
this is a good one.
Hello gamers, welcome to the outro. It's me, Chase, and I'm here to guide you through that thing called the outro. Let me see, if you want to learn more about the show or talk to us or join the Discord, which I suggest you do, you can go to podtimism.com. It has all of our stuff. If you want to suggest a game, you can do that there, or if you want to check if we've like already talked about something, you can also do that there. It's got everything. And it's a fun place for cool people. What else? Just a couple quick thank yous to Scout Wilkinson. Thank you for your artwork on our podcast album art. It's very good. The other day, I took a long look at it. I'm like, that shit still hits. It still
good.
Works.
It
still works for the show, you know?
Yeah.
Because Into the Aether refreshes their artwork every year. I'm like, do we need to? I'm actually thinking, you know what? It works still. It's good. It's still like we're doing the thing with the video, the bad games being buried underneath the ground. Mm-hmm. Still there. So thank you, Scout. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
If you would like to help out the show, a preemptive thank you to those who do. You can either show it to a friend and be like, this shit is cool. And they talk about Link's Gyat in this one.
We sure did.
A lot of butt-based jokes on this
Booty
guy.
Jokes.
Yeah. So you can do that, or you can review it on like Spotify or Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast or whatever you got. So thank you in advance for that. But truly, the most important thing here is thank you for listening. We deeply appreciate you being here while we are in both sickness and health.
We're going to renew our podcast vows now.
Yeah, it's true. I can see the life draining out of David's eyes. So I'm going to barrel towards the outro here.
Let's do it.
So thank you for listening. We appreciate you deeply. David, do you have any gaming wisdom?
Yeah. Hit that Mucinex, dude.
Hit that Mucinex. Chug the vitamin
Chug the
C.
emergency. And have a nice hot tea.
It's true. You were chug-a-lugging the tea too.
You got to treat your body right so that you can game all night. You know what I mean?
You got to treat your body right so that you can treat your gotti right.
My gotti? My gyati?
My gyati. Let's flip it. Drink a toddy right to treat your body right. Like a hot toddy, but like maybe don't put the alcohol in there.
Drink a hot toddy for your sick body.
There you go. Okay, perfect. Wow.
We got there.
And we got there. Have a good night or day or morning. Well, I don't know when you listen to this.
Have a good consciousness.
Have a great consciousness today.
See ya.
Goodbye, everyone.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.